So, Rain, you've really set the bar high. And of course, all of us here on Guam have been watching you grow as this woman of many talents. Now, you've not only played the lead role in many of the projects that you've done, but you've also created, written, and produced them. What drives you to take on so many tasks and, might I say, execute them so successfully as you do? Because that is a lot of work.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Well, when I started in this business, I knew it was going to be challenging just as a Asian American woman and someone from Guam. And it's even more challenging when you identify as a transgender woman too. So for me, opportunities were and are still a few and far between here in Hollywood. So in order for people to take me seriously, I felt like I had to show them what I'm capable of. So I had to show them what I can do. Um, and luckily, I was able to get jobs where I can learn the finishing aspect of making films and how to edit and, you know, um, make a movie and look like a film. And so that inspired me to go to the front end and start writing and creating my own content and allowing myself to be the center of the films that I write and create, so that I can show people what I'm capable of. And that has worked so well for me. It worked in my favor because with my first short film, Ryan's, that did really well in the festival circuit, it helped me get my manager, and it helped me land my first reoccurring role, which was on Lopez. So for me,
Yeah.
I think it was a calculated risk to write and produce and star in my own content, but it worked out in my favor.
Now, as you said, of course, for one of the obstacles, obviously, being from Guam, this tiny island, like you ask anyone, like, where's Guam? What's a Guam? So you have that against you. You also, you are Asian American and you're transgender. And like you said, you've had to work extra hard to get to where you're at. What were some of the challenges you faced?
Oh gosh. Well, you know, when it came to auditioning, a lot of the roles that I would audition for were either written very stereotypical. So it's like the nerdy Asian girl, or, the nurse who has like a very, prominent accent. So things like that. Um, or like like a maid who doesn't speak English. So those were really, really eye-opening for me, because it made me realize that's how we're seen. That's how we're portrayed. And so if I wanted to take on a role that's, would normally go to somebody like Sandra Bullock, it would be very hard for people to actually see me in that role, because I'm Asian Americans and trans people are usually always like the uh, like a supporting role. And when it came to trans people, it was always depicted in a negative way generally. And and with Asian Americans, sometimes it's for a laugh. It's to kind of uplift the center character, the lead protagonist. And I didn't really identify as any of those things. And I really believed that I was meant for something else, something bigger than like a side character. So for me, if Hollywood wasn't going to allow me to do that, then it was up to me to allow myself to do it.
I love that. And you've definitely paved the way for a lot to happen. I mean, um, with Ryan's, we're going to backtrack a little bit. I did watch it. I thought it was so amazing. Obviously, that received huge success. Now, one of the other things I wanted to talk about. So, Ryan screened at multiple festivals around the world. Now, your most recent project, Razor Tongue, is definitely one for the books. Can you tell us more about Razor Tongue and your character as Belle?
Yes, so Razor Tongue, I wrote pretty much like on a weekend a few years ago after after a lot of women in Hollywood came up and created Time's Up, the Time's Up movement, where a lot of women were coming forward about their experience with misogyny and discrimination and sexual assault and misconduct. And that inspired me to, the experience led me to interrogate some of my own experiences with misogyny and discrimination, because it was definitely a lot of it that I was experiencing. And I remember feeling like I was so complacent in the matter that I didn't believe I had enough value to stand up for myself. And so it kind of angered me that I didn't value myself enough to stand up or quit or report any of these behaviors that had been happening during my time here in Hollywood. So I wrote Belle as kind of a way for me to channel that energy and put it into a character. And because that's how I like to write. I like to use my creativity to process my feelings and my experiences. And so it was a very cathartic experience for me to just write out everything that I was feeling into this character and have her kind of take it on and use it to empower herself. And it inspired me to have that character and then also get to play her. And I was very smart to make her, trans and make her from Guam, because then it was undeniable that like only I could play her.
Yeah.
So, because when we were crowdfunding, we had the idea, well, should we open up the casting pool and see if anyone would want to audition for Belle? But the producers pretty much agreed that we think you got Belle down. So, we don't need to open up that casting pool. So, I think with Razor Tongue, it was our first experience as a production company creating something as massive as it was. And, it was a labor of love. It was a crowdfunding feat that we had to accomplish. And it's also like a proven work of art from my community here in Los Angeles. I built a community where I surround myself with a lot of people who identify as a person of color or queer or trans. And so for me, it was very important to have them a part of the project and employ them in different departments of the show. So the show itself is 80% very queer and very trans in front of the camera and behind the camera. So that's one thing that I'm really proud of with the show. And as far as playing Belle, I mean, for me, it was just I know her so well. I know exactly who she is. I know why she is so frustrated in the beginning and allows herself to switch on a dime and say the things that she's very passionate about, because it's time for us to not let these microaggressions continue to happen. And
yeah, she definitely has a razor tongue.
Yeah.
She definitely has a razor tongue. And I will say her character did catch me off guard, some of it, because she knows what she wants to say. And for a lot of people, it might be a little off-putting, like, whoa, Okay, but like you said, channeling the aggression that you felt, you know, being in Hollywood, being in the position that you were in, obviously being able to finally be, you know, given that platform to put that aggression for people to see. Um, Obviously, coming from personal experiences, but how similar to the character of Belle would you say you are? Are you that outspoken where people are just being like, oh my god, my name is just, you know, or I'm thinking of rhymes right now, but you've played characters that are very determined, very strong female figures. How much similar are you to your character Belle?
You know, that's a very good question. I think we're very similar in so many ways, because I do consider myself very, very outspoken. But what I love about Belle is that there are also times when I allow myself to just kind of sit there and let the situation unfold and not say anything. And so for me, watching me play Belle was cathartic, because here's a character who's saying the things I never got to say in certain
Mm-hmm.
situations. So for me, it was, you know, it was kind of, it's kind of a fantasy. You know, we walk away from a very bad date or a very bad interview, and we go into our car and suddenly we're like, I should have said this, I should have said that. So I've had so many of those moments where I'm like, I should have said this and I should have said that. Where for me, Belle is that character that inspires me to um, allow myself the time to like think my thoughts and then say it in the moment. And I have had those moments occasionally. So there are parts of me where I feel like I have channeled Belle in my life.
Okay, and just being able to say Emmy nominated feels like I feel elevated as a reporter. Now I can imagine the position that you were in when you know received this news. So how was your reaction to this for your Emmy nomination for Raise Your Tongue?
You know, it was very surreal. It's still surreal. I'm still pinching myself. I wasn't even supposed to be available when they announced it, but I had a job that was postponed to the following week. So my producing coordinator, assistant, Bowie, was, we were texting, and, you know, they were like, well, you know, they're announcing the Emmys. And so I was like, oh, well, I guess I'll watch. So I did. And they only announced the big name characters, like the major characters. I mean, I'm sorry, they only announced the major categories. They only
Right.
televised that. So I had to log into my laptop and scroll this long PDF, and I just kind of kept scrolling and scrolling, and my category was like on page 34 or something like that. And so it was very like an out of the body experience where like I saw my name, but it was more like I know that name as opposed to like that's me. Like immediately it was more like, wait a minute, I know that name. It's familiar.
I
Um,
know her.
yeah, that's what it was. And then it took me a second to like, oh my God, that's my name and that's my production company, that's my show. Um, so I got very emotional. I'm still emotional about it. I cried a lot. I was shaking a lot. My hands were shaking. Um, I called my manager and I could barely speak. So yeah, it's been a very like surreal experience, and you know, it's just the Emmys is sort of like, I don't know, it's the highest honor when it comes to television, especially for actors. And for me to be nominated not only for my talent but for something that I created is it's it's beyond, you know, it's so hard to put into words. But I'm so grateful and I'm so happy. And there are times when I can't believe this is happening, but there are also times when it feels right and it makes me really proud of my team and what we created. And and also proud that I I did that. You know, I wrote it, I shot it, and I got to play that character. And you know, I crowdfunded it, which is not an easy thing to do, asking people for money. And so I'm celebrating all of that. I'm celebrating all the hurdles that we had to um, do to get to this position.
So it just sounds like, man, when you are going for something, you are reaching for the stars. I mean, your success as an actress and filmmaker has already been proven, but you also do other things outside of the film industry. Act Now, you created an organization, the first in LA to prioritize a safe space for LGBTQA, plus. Um, what can you please tell us more about that? What are some of the things that you guys are doing for the community? And have you seen an increase in the LGBTQ plus in in um, in the film industry, or those that are trying to get out there for it?
There's definitely a huge increase in talent here in LA, that I'm seeing, and more casting directors, more and more television producers and film producers are seeking talent within the LGBTQIA community, which is what inspired me to create a space that was specifically for the community. Because when I was in an acting class, or when I was, in a voiceover class, I was always the only transgender person in the space, in the room. And so, which can be very taxing on someone, and it kind of takes away from focusing on the craft of acting. So for me, it was kind of a no-brainer that if I was going to do it, I would do it specifically for my community. So when I created the class, we started out as a workshop, just like a 4-week workshop a few years ago. But it became on demand and people wanted more. And so we turned it into like a regular monthly class. And we've been doing it ever since. We've been doing it for 2 years now. And more people within the community keep finding it. And we've also had a lot of continuing students who are very eager to learn the craft and grow and stick with the program and the classes, because acting is, it's a longevity thing. It's not something that you just learn and then you go and do. It's something that you continue to build on and continue to grow with, and to have a place where people could go to in terms of finding talent within the community, I think has also been a plus for us, because not only do we have this safe space for all of these artists, but we also have a place where producers and casting directors can come to us and say, hey, we have this breakdown, this character breakdown that we're looking for. Do you have anyone? So that's been happening as well.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's been great. And you know what? I love teaching. I wasn't sure if this was something that I was going to do, and I gave it a shot, and I found out that it's something that I'm actually passionate about. Like, I love anything that has anything to do with acting. I just love. I love talking about it. I love watching all the television shows and every film that's out there. And so for me, it was just a natural thing to also teach it, because I talk about it so much.
Oh man, well, I will tell you, if I'm ever in the LA area, I'm going to be checking you guys out, because I as an actress myself, you've really inspired me to really just
Oh,
keep going in, my craft, because I've come from a place where it's okay, I did a lot of acting, but I've always been weary of, script writing, or, just trying to branch out to those other areas. So you've definitely become a role model, for myself, for many others trying to pursue that lifestyle. Who inspired you growing up? Who were some of your role models?
that's a really good question. Well, my older sister, I need to give her credit, because she was my first inspiration. She wanted to be a dancer. She wanted to act. She wanted to sing. And she did all that when we were kids. And I was just always so in awe of her. And I wanted to do them too. So she was my very first inspiration, because she just kind of just did it all and made it seem like it was possible. And yeah, but in terms of like on the big screen, like I grew up watching, oh gosh, I grew up watching Whoopi Goldberg and, you know, Sandra Bullock and Julia Roberts. And, you know, none of them were Asian American or trans, but there weren't any back then. And so I just drew inspiration from the women that I loved and the women who allowed me to see a part of myself that rang true. You know, I knew that I wanted to be an actor, but watching these, you know, actors be funny and be romantic and be vulnerable allowed me to see something in myself that I really wanted to explore. And you know, coming from Guam, it was such a, I mean, it's such a long shot, right? To move to Los Angeles and pursue a career of acting and think that you're going to be the next Julia Roberts. But I really didn't have anything else that I wanted to do or pursue. And so for me, it was just a matter of continuing to believe in myself and stick to it. And you know, I was always been very curious about the art of acting. And so I learned as much as I could as soon as I got here.
Wow. Well, obviously a lot has happened within the 3 years that our other reporter, Joan again, Charfris, has sat down with you. I mean, you accomplished so much, and man, what is in store for your future? I mean, just within the past 3 years that we last sat down with you, what do you have coming up?
That's a really good question. We actually did a Zoom live reading of a script that I wrote. It's a feature film script, and it actually takes place in Guam. And so, yeah, it's about a character who goes back home to care for her dying mother, but then finds out that it's her high school reunion happening at the same time. So she goes back to her high school reunion, which reveals itself to be a 5-day do-over where she can go back to be the person she always wanted to be. So she tries out to be a cheerleader. So it's a romantic comedy. It's a sister, mother, daughter story. And we've been pitching it around, and I'm hoping that we'll get to shoot it within the next year, you know, pending COVID precautions. And I'm hoping that we get to fly to Guam and shoot part of it there. So that's one project. Yeah. So that's one project I'm working on. And then we're also, season 2 of Razor Tongue is written, and we've been pitching that around, and it looks like we'll be shooting that sometime next year too.
Awesome. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited for you. I really hope the film gets, you know, you guys are able to come here, and we'll definitely sit down again, talk about it more, the whole process. So I look forward to that. And this one is just my personal question. This isn't even for the interview. How was it working with George Lopez? That's freaking crazy.
Oh my God, you know, he's still a friend. He still reaches out to me. I still reach out to him. It was an amazing experience. We got along great. We have great chemistry on set. He's actually, he revealed to me that he had been to Guam sometime in the 90s. Like, I think he performed comedy, you know, somewhere in Tumon Bay. I can't remember. But he had revealed that to me when I told him that I had grew up in Guam. He's really funny. He's really sweet. And yeah, like I'm very, very grateful for that experience. I learned a lot working on that set.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, Rain. Is there anything else you would like to say? Inspiring words to everyone here on Guam and everyone in the LGBTQ plus community that want to, you know, maybe follow in a similar path as you?
Wow. I'd say, you know, just continue being yourself unapologetically and know that um, there is community out there for you to discover, whether it's on the island or on the mainland. Um, People today actually are very, very lucky because of the internet. And so, um, yeah, find your people, move mountains with your people, and and you'll find that there's actually a lot of love and a lot of fun to be had when you do that.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much, Rain, for taking the time out of your day to open up to us. And we look forward to catching up with you again, hopefully sooner.
Yeah, hopefully sooner. Thank you so much. It was so great to meet you, and good luck with acting.
Thank
And I hope to see you in the big screen sometime soon.
you. All right. Thank you so much, Rain. Have a great day.
You too.